right? That is essentially the divine purpose. And based on that, everyone obviously has their own interpretation of what going forth and multiplying means, right? That unfortunately is just the way of life. As individuals stuck in time, um, we tend to really overestimate the value of our presence as individuals in the entire spectrum of humanity from start to finish. We live 100 years in a cycle of a few million years. We're not really even a speck of dust in the entire landscape of that. So that's the first thing. The universal purpose is Ubuntu and multiplying that which is good. And to the second point, I'm going to speak about forces, and that's where it gets tricky because for me, evil is not so much a force by itself, but a product of ignorance, right? I believe in I guess four real structures, which is light and dark, and that for me it's very important to say light and dark actually do serve the same purpose. They serve to define what is material. Without light, it is very difficult for us just seeing an object to understand within this material 3D space, where does it fall? Is it on the floor? Is it hanging? Do you get what I'm saying? Because there is light, darkness will create, and the two live in harmony. That is light and darkness. The only true forces, I would say, are in complete opposite to each other are wisdom and ignorance, right? Because we can have the same knowledge, but without the wisdom to discern which parts of that knowledge leads to growth and which part of that knowledge leads to deterioration, that is where you end up where we are right now, right? And I like to say this because in a lot of conversations which I've had, as we speak on, the past of Africa and how great it is, we very much tend to forget the fact that we also had our flaws, right? And what I'm afraid of is us regaining power without acknowledging the flaws of our ancestors in leading to the world that we currently live and being doomed to repeat the same mistake, right? So I speak to, yes, we did teach our younger brothers in the white race all the knowledge that we had amassed, all the thinking that we had. We literally went forth and we multiplied. But what we failed to teach them in the knowledge that we gave them was the wisdom to understand the power of that knowledge. And that is a failure on us as a people. And I think I'm deviating away from the main question now. But that is a failure on us, and it's something that as a people, as we are setting up the renaissance of African thought, of African consciousness, we need to be aware that in what we are teaching, are we also teaching wisdom as we are teaching, knowledge? Because the road to hell is very much paved with good intentions. Without the wisdom to discern the path that you are on, as much as you are helping people on the way, you might be helping them to jump off a cliff. Do you get what I'm saying?
All right.
And
So
then,
okay, yeah. So now I hear you. You. Sorry to interrupt you there. I've got a question before I forget. You said there is
sure,
ignorance, and then there's
wisdom.
knowledge, wisdom, and ignorance. So so in perspective of black and white, where does that come in? Who's ignorant and who's wise?
There, there isn't a clear answer for that. People are people, you know.
Oh, okay.
For,
You
do you get what I'm
basic
saying?
so you basically saying the pro the divide is not between the two races. Is that what you're
Yes,
driving at?
it is. Yes, I mean, you look at. Okay, I mean, I'm just gonna speak quick politics, right?
Uh,
Um, for the last 50, 50, 60 years,
uh,
African leaders have been foolish, right? Yes, we have been in power, but what they've done with that power is continue to not think about the next generation, but try to lampost about how them being in power is great for the African people. But they do not take into consideration the needs of the African people, and that in and of itself is the peak of foolishness, right? In the same breath, there has been a wisdom that is not a wisdom for humanity, but a wisdom for their own race from white people to perpetuate and keep systems that serve them. Do you get what I'm saying? So it is not necessary to a certain people. It is an attribute that people who, as a collective, decide to adopt or not. Right? I look at our generation right now. We're split 60-40 between wisdom and ignorance. We have a very young crop of professionals that have understood that going into corporate and being career driven for white-owned companies does nothing for our communities because you're the only one that's employed, and that is the wisdom. But in this very same breath, you have people that are willing to devote themselves to white-owned companies, not even thinking about acquiring equity in those companies, right?
uh,
Sometimes it is better to take over, a company that has run and had history. That's not a bad way of thinking about it. But if you're going to go in and say, you know what, I want to work for the next 40 years for the same company or for two or three companies that are white owned, and I have no plans to actually gain equity in a company of my own or take those skills and actually do something within my impoverished community for the next generation of people who want to be like me. Now I'm the first person in my entire neighborhood that does art direction, graphic design. If I don't take this knowledge that I'm accruing in my career and I start at least programs that will create
okay, when you go see you breaking there,
or 6
you
more versions of myself. To answer your question, it also say the knowledge that a certain group is using to serve a purpose. Are they doing that with the purpose of growth or for the purpose of lambasting?
okay.
If it is lambasting, then it is foolish. If it serves growth, then it is wisdom.
Okay, let me ask. Okay, well, let's stick to wisdom and ignorance because you foolish is something else. Uh, now, do you think the black politicians that you were talking about, do you think they're ignorant of what they're doing?
I think it's a bit tricky because on one hand, it is very much a very simplistic answer to say yes, they're ignorant. But on the other hand,
So, what is it that they do
what
not know?
they lack
What is it that they do not know? What is it that they do not know that makes them ignorant about? Because
down.
let me tell you why I'm asking you this question. Eh? So now let's go let's look at let's just go back a bit in history. So when um, back in the days, what when the police were would hunt down certain comrades and all that, they would grab you and then they would ask questions. Do you know what's happening? They would torture you, you know. And the torture was meant for you to eventually give in and work for them and be an informant, right? So the question is, would you have been, would you have just given in and become the informant, and or would you have ended up ended up like Steve Biko and be tortured until you basically die. You know, so I wouldn't say they are ignorant of what they're doing. What Whatever is happening in the country, politically, everywhere in Africa, it's all part of the plan. Um, when the If you understand why the they were in 1960 when the ANC decided to form the armed struggle, and they decided to collaborate with Russia, with Cuba, China, to plead to wave the communism flag. So the reason why they did that is because they understood that apartheid, you know, in South Africa was not run by Bufander Merwe. The people that were actually running this thing called apartheid were actually the Western world combined.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
no, no. I
so
agree.
no, no,
I
that,
agree with
so
you. Not that was very
yeah,
reassuring.
yeah. So why I'm driving at this is these guys knew that there's no way we're gonna. Earlier you said that we we shouldn't gain power before we learn from our mistakes and whatnot. You don't have to worry about that. It's not gonna happen. We're not gonna gain power. The only way out of this is actually understanding the root of how we got here. That's the only way. It's never gonna happen. So uh, the the concept of if you can't beat them, join them, right? So if you
Yeah.
look at the black politicians, especially the thing is the four founders of the ANC were not dumb people. These guys were your
No,
black intellectuals.
definitely.
Yeah,
That's
they were
absolutely.
your black
The
intellectuals.
founders of the
Yeah,
ANCs are the people that I respect most in my life.
yeah. I don't
But we
respect
have
them,
been
but
looking
they
at the.
they were intellectuals.
No, no, no. I mean, you have to understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not all fighters. In every single war, you need strategists, you need frontmen. You get what I'm saying? It is compartmentalized. And that's what I'm saying. There's a difference between those who saw the current problem that we're having, they understood the resources that we had available to us, and they saw the allies that we could necessarily recruit, right? And it's not necessarily so much of beat them or join them as much as the founding fathers of the ANC understood that sometimes you're going to have to fight dirty, right? And that is why I respect them. I might not necessarily agree with a lot of the views that they held or a lot of the ways that they decided to essentially run things, but equally, we were in a bind, and what was necessary to be done at the time to amass enough of a fighting chance to actually have a knockout punch. It's like Muhammad Ali. Sometimes you just need to sit back for 11 rounds and do what you can to tire the enemy out, and with that one strike, strike as hard as you can. Right? And
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, and that's why I'm saying it's tricky because I do understand the model that runs politics.
Okay.
Right?
So just a second. I was remember this came from you saying that the black politicians are or African politicians are ignorant, right? So what African politicians are doing today is the legacy of 1912.
Yeah.
What Ramaphosa is doing today is the legacy of 1912. People think he has a personal agenda. It's not. It's a systematic agenda that was laid out in 1912 when the organization was formed, where they decided to make a deal with Elizabeth, the Queen of
Yes,
England.
but listen,
Hold on.
if I
So
may,
no, hold on a bit. Where they made a deal with Queen Elizabeth to become the mediators in order to get black people to be to be to put a wool over their eyes and think they're gonna get what they're gonna get, but we will benefit and we will do as you please. We will serve you as a black. It's just like Obama. Obama, uh, Obama served the exact same purpose. He, he when he won, black people all around the world, in Africa, wherever, Caribbean, they were excited that Obama has won, you know. But what did Obama do to the great freedom fighter who is legendary, Asada Shakur? He increased the bounty on their head, you know. So Obama was a white man using his black face, just like all the black politicians. So hence I was told when you mentioned that it's they are ignorant. So you can't say they're ignorant and yet you say you respect them. You gotta you gotta choose where you stand there because
I mean,
if Rama,
let
yeah,
me put it like this. No,
you okay?
let me put it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler was a warrant, but I still respect his ability to unify people. Do you get what I'm saying? People don't live in extremes. People are not extremes, and so you can you can sometimes respect a philosophy that a person holds as much as you do not like them as a person. You know, there's lessons that we can take from the most ruthless men in history as a people on how to fight this very system because their actions within their thoughts are essentially only one half, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke about these things of light and darkness and knowledge being a tool, but the wisdom to use it for light or for darkness in this case, because it is perceived as the opposite.
All right. Okay.
Then,
let me just go.
yeah.
Let me just go back to what you had said earlier. You mentioned the Bible in terms of universal purpose and whatnot. So if you look at the Bible itself, the Bible itself will tell you that the the two it gives you the two nations will always be at war. Look at the twins Esau and Jacob. The Bible tells you that mythological story about how the two brothers were at war in the womb, and the Bible says two nations were at war. Because the thing is, when we think that human beings, all races, can live together in harmony, how do we have? How does a farmer and a pastoral nomad live in harmony together? When, if I'm a pastoral nomad, I have my goats, yeah, and they roam around freely, and you have your crops there. So we'll always be fighting about your goats ate my crops, and I'll be like, screw you, my goats. This is God's land. My goats can move wherever they want. But if you look at the Bible, even Abraham and Lot, the story of Abraham and Lot, they had to go their separate ways because their men could not live in harmony together. For the sake of peace, they had to go their separate ways. So the concept of um, I think we all know this. It's only I think somehow there's a desire in a lot of black people to see that hey maybe you know there are good white people. We are all not so different, you know. But we need to accept the fact that we are different. We are not like white people because you also mentioned Ubuntu. Ubuntu is not universal. Ubuntu is not universal. When you the Europeans don't hold on a second. Maybe yeah, you asked me just now in a second. Ubuntu is opposite of white culture because Ubuntu says Ubuntu Ubuntu ngabantu. In the definition of a human being in the concept of Ubuntu makes white people not human because it says Ubuntu Ubuntu ngabantu and white people say survival of the fittest, kill or be killed. That's their culture, and that has worked for them. So Ubuntu and that can never coexist. Yeah, ask me your question, bro.
Okay, so the first question is, do you have any siblings, and if so, have you ever had a disagreement or a fight with them?
Yes, I do, and yes, we have disagreement, but there's a difference between a
No, no, no.
disagreement. Hold on. I'm trying to put the answer in context. Okay, fine.
Okay,
Okay, continue the question. It's fine. Continue the question.
cool.
Okay.
And my entire point is, there are fights that keep you away for a very long time. And there are moments whereby, despite your differences, these moments bring you together, right? You have small fights between siblings that honestly can be spoken about at the moment, and you both realize your errors. And then you have other fights which last for years and years and years until something major happens within the family that brings you guys together. And at that point, you can see the era of both of your thinking. And when you guys come together to then serve the family is then stronger. Do you agree or disagree with what I'm saying right now?
Okay. Uh, I don't agree in this context. I agree in there are two contexts here in what you're saying. You need to separate the two. So, um, a if you're a Christian, right? Can you marry a sangoma?
See, that depends.
On
Are you a
why?
Christian?
No. Hold on.
No,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
okay.
Are you a Christian by religion or are you a Christian by the faith? Because those are two different things.
What does it? No, but it has to be by the Bible. So the question now, you're saying, yeah, a Christian can marry a sangoma, right?
Yes.
What does the Bible say about being unequally yoked with an unbeliever?
Okay, but again.
No. That part.
Yes,
What do you?
yes. No,
How do you deal with that?
I'm about to touch on it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It essentially frowns upon. But
Not
that
frowned
is
upon. It's not frowned upon. The Bible says do not. It's not frowned upon. It's a minimum requirement.
Right.
It's not negotiable.
Yes, but
Yeah.
but listen to what I'm saying, and that's what I'm saying. There's a difference between Christianity by faith and Christianity by religion. Because Christianity by religion assumes that sangomas do not serve a god. You hear what I'm saying? That is the first natural assumption, and that is a Western way of looking at Christianity.
No, hold on. Okay, hold on a second. The Bible says specifically you cannot consult mediums. So how do you marry a medium?
Yes.
So the Bible's against your wife, bro. It says no one should consult your wife. A medium is evil.
Yes, but in the very same breath, the Bible essentially says ancestral communication is bad, but also when we pray, we need to pray to the God of Abraham and Jacob and Isaac. Do you get what I'm saying?
No. It's not a. Hold on. You can't. Wait. You can't say you don't subscribe to that part. You can't quote anything else. Wait. You can't quote.
If you can't say you can't subscribe to that part, then it is irrational for us to be wearing the clothes that we're wearing right now. Do you get what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
Then by that logic, all Christians right now are not Christians.
No. Wait. No. I'm not talking.
So,
no, my question now. Wait. Do you
yeah.
do you know a sangoma? Do you know what a sangoma does?
Yes, I've been in a family with 3 generations.
Have you ever met? Okay, have you ever met? Okay. Maybe this one of Christians and sangomas becomes bloodline. It introduces bloodlines because many Christians in Africa, Christianity in Africa was actually mixed with with the African spirituality, so it's a mixed masala. But the question really is, um, can how does a Muslim marry a sangoma? Do you know that? Yeah,
Can I come in?
you wanna come in?
Can you please let one person explain without interrupting? Let him explain by faith and by religion so that we
No.
can get the whole context. I'm just
No, okay. All right. Let me tell you why we're not going into that. It's gonna become a discussion about religion. It's and that's a long topic. That's not what the discussion is about. The discussion is love colorblind. So we are looking at uh, people that are in life. We know very well that that people are different, and people that are there are certain people you walk away from because the two cannot work together, because what is essentially saying is the concept of how can two work together unless they are be agreed, doesn't work. It's common sense. There are differences between people that can never coexist, not even for 1 second, you know. So I gave an example that Ubuntu and individualism, how do you put those two together? That's my question. How does an how does individualism and Ubuntu coexist? If you come from you marry a white man, and you come from an Ubuntu type of setup where you were raised by the community, the village, you were not raised. Your mother and father died when you were very young, and you were raised by the so-called extended family, and you were not told this is your extended family. You know this is your family, and you obviously have uh, an obligation towards them. How do you reconcile the fact that the white man says, "Man, we gotta take over our family. This is our family. This is the two cannot coexist. How? How do they coexist? How? That's my question. Bogin goes. Please answer, and then we'll let Lintle in. She's got a hand up.
All right, cool. So I do agree with you in the sense that a mindset of the whole and a mindset of the one cannot coexist if they live in extremes. Do you get what I'm saying? Because if you live too in the extreme of the community, then you forget the individual parts that make that community great. And what you end up doing is creating a system which averages out the brilliant minds for the community instead of allowing those brilliant minds to contribute in their brightest forms towards uplifting the entire community. In the same breath, on the opposite extreme, you have individualism, which serves the self and does not look toward the growth of the community, right?
Hold on. Before you continue, hold on. Please be. I gave specific examples. Let's be specific, because when you just when you just make ideologies, you can just go off and off. Let's get practical. Hold on, let's get practical. Your mother is now whatever age, she's a pensioner. Your wife is white. She's already sent her mother to an old age home, and she says, "Yeah, let's send your mother to the old age home."
Obviously, I would disagree, right? But my point is, there comes one thing that we tend to negate in these types of conversations, right? At the end of the day, we started this conversation on what is the purpose of a relationship, right? And we all agree that the most fundamental thing in any relationship is communication, correct? So for me, personally, going into a relationship with someone that is white, my first thing for me to consider as an African, and that speaks to us as Africans entering these relationships. One, our views on family, right? For me, yes, you can send your mother to an old age home if you want to. That is up to you. But if you and I are to be in a relationship, then you must understand that for me as an African, family is important. And for me as an African, to a certain extent, if I mean obviously relationships are also about compromise, but for me as an African, I am the head of this household. This does not negate your power as my partner and as my wife, because as Africans we really do respect the opinions of our partners. That is just who we are as people. Some of our most successful societies in African history have been headed by matriarchs. Do you get what I'm saying? So we do. Feminism is primarily a white institution because white women do not have the same privileges as black women within the family structure, especially in terms of the conversations and the power that they had at the table with their husbands. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes, men would come together and essentially decide the future of the community, but it was very much guided by the speech and the conversations of women behind closed doors.
All right. Okay. Okay, but because it's just to make it straight to the point. So now you marry an African girl, right?
Yes.
You umzulu angithi.
Funny enough, Mfana is my paternal family is Ndebele, but I was never raised by them, so I prescribe more to my Zwana side.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, cool. Now, so you marry a white girl, right?
Yes.
You guys have children.
Yes.
Right. So what do you tell them about history and yeah. And hold on. Have you ever met a white person, right?
Yes.
Have you ever met a white person that says yes? Uh, there is white privilege, and we are here primarily because black people lifted us out of the dark ages, and we took advantage of that. And oh yes, ancient Egypt is a black civilization. Do you get where I'm getting at? If you hold on. So if you're gonna say there is a white person, I'd like you to show me someone that you follow on Twitter who is white that has posted tweeted anything around that, confirming that, to say like the land issue. If it's a real thing, right? You guys now have children, right? You tell your children, hey kids, your mama's people, um, they came here, they committed genocide, and they took the land. The land actually belongs to my people. How do you? What does that do for your children psychologically?
Okay, cool. So one, my Twitter is very, very sweet. I'm not going to lie. I think there's like a total of like four, 5 people that are white that I follow. So that is good.
Those are enough. Those are enough.
That's very no. Of the 4 or 5 people,
Yeah.
none of them have ever had conversations because they're very specialized in the topics that they speak about. Right?
Which is one.
Essentially, just crypto and tech. Right? They're not even speaking about the land issue. And I know that this works to your point, but as I'm saying, you asked me from the people that I'm following.
So hold on. Hold on. If you
I have a very shallow list of white people that I'm following, so automatically I can't answer that first point.
Yeah, but no, those are it's the people you follow, and you're saying crypto and tech, right? They should know that black people there's the reason why you even have crypto and tech. They so and so African American invented this. There's this and this and that. Do they talk about that?
No, they don't.
They're racist.
Right?
They're racist, but they're specialists, right? If you
I
if you
can't speak to them, and I can't allow myself to become in a position where I'm going to speak to them. I don't know one way or another.
No, I'm not
Right?
saying you should speak to them. I'm just showing you. I'm just showing you that if they're specialists in a field, anybody who's a specialist in law, right, and he's gonna tell you that the law began with the Romans, he's racist. You can't be a specialist in that subject and not know where it actually originated from. You know,
I agree with you.
there's
I
a
do agree.
there's a I'll
That
get
is
there's
education as a whole. Do you get what I'm saying?
pardon?
I'm saying that education as a whole. I could essentially point you to a black lawyer as well. I could ask them the very same question and they would give you the same answer. Do you see what I'm saying? Not everyone is thinking as we are thinking past written history and actually going back and saying, okay, cool, this entire philosophy of democracy was founded on principles that were learned in North Africa, right? Nobody goes there because school doesn't teach them to go there, and they themselves are so accustomed to the education that they are receiving that they do not want to go there. You see what I'm saying? So yes, black people are equally as racist. We really are to ourselves. And I don't want to.
No, that is not about black people now. Leave the black people out. That's a different talk. No, 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 no.
Our conversation is based on the black relationship with
white people. Yeah. So we're talking about white. We're screening white people. We're not screening black people. We know there are actually black people who even have committed genocide against black people, collaborating with white people. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about qualifying white people to be partners with black people who are conscious. Forget black people that are not conscious. They don't form part of the picture. The only black people we're talking about here is conscious black people. Do they have white? Hold on. I just want to streamline this conversation properly. The only black people that we're going to talk about are conscious black people. We are looking for white people that can match them and become their partners. That's all. You get what I'm saying? Black people that want your Uncle Ruckus, nah, we're not having that conversation. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Because my point is,
right?
Yeah.
Listen to us. We, as conscious black people, have a reason to go searching for this history, right? As far as white people go, they will search and learn as far as we, as conscious black people, teach them. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's not okay. Hold on. That's not true. Hold on. That's not really true. Hold on. Just a sec. I just want to correct that. Before you continue, I just want to correct that. You might be going out of tangent. Every black scholar, if you've studied the work of African scholars, their work they quote white people. So there are more white people who've exposed, who have written about this stuff, our history, than black people actually.
Yes, okay.
Dr. Ben, when they write books, they quote white people's work.
Speaking to that very same point,
yeah,
you have two things. Mm-hmm. One, we weren't allowed to go to university for the longest of time, which even if we did write books, right, they would become peer-reviewed and rejected, which is essentially the method of academia.
Yeah. So no, that's that. Okay, that part. Okay, that part is not a problem.
Secondly, as African people, we have a history of oral tradition more than written tradition.
Not true.
Which is the second part of. Pardon? No, we have the hierarchies, yes, but the context. Historically, we are more prone to oral than we are to writing.
But the most written documents are African. But yeah, anyway.
The oldest, yes.
No, all in all. All in all.
Yeah.
Not the oldest, all in all, include everything that's ever been written.
Of course. But what has happened throughout history?
Yeah.
Those documents have either been edited those languages have died out. You get what I'm saying? Yes, we have a lot of written history, but we no longer have people that are alive to decipher it. And so what is deciphered is you have a lot of white men learning broken down forms of these languages, in extrapolating what they can from that, filtering out that which does not serve the mission of whiteness, and then what is then translated into academia and is quoted by our black professors and our black writers of consciousness is already a watered down version of a watered down version of the truth.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Okay. Well, I hear you. You because we're going a bit off topic right now.
Yeah, we are.
So, back to the question. What do you say to your children?
To my children, as a conscious black man, right?
And their white mother. Mm.
Yes, yeah, and their white mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, we also, if we're going to take back this world, we need to stop asking for permission, right? If we believe in the African family structure, to say we're allowed to have a conversation, but that conversation will essentially, as it leaves the house, it will leave through essentially my guys as the head of the family, correct? So we have a conversation to say, yeah, you know what, I'm here with your mother. Our people have very vast differences on how we view the world, on how we view each other, and not to necessarily say that all people from your mother's side are bad, or all people from our side have been ineffective in doing things, because those are the extremes. But here is the truth of the history of humanity.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Before you, sorry to have to interrupt you. So we can keep it in topic. Your it's last question. Then we go to Linkley, and then I will bring you back again. Which can no just you said not all white people are bad. Can you name a historical event where white people systematically came together against the oppression of black people?
Okay, cool. I probably can't, but listen to this.
Why? If it exists, so you either hold on. Let me hold on. I'll let you. No, I'll let you. No.
Let me ask you a question. Are all black people lazy? Are all black people criminals? Do you get what I'm saying?
No. Okay, where does that question apply? What's relevant about that question? No. What's relevant about the question of laziness?
No, but it speaks to the very same premise.
No, it doesn't.
Of saying every single individual.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Where do you live? If you wake up, if you were to drive out at 5 in the morning, you don't see white people walking out on the streets. You see black people walking out on the streets, going to the taxi. What are you talking about? Have you ever? No. The one. But you can't. Hold on. No, when your comparison. Hold on. There's a reason why I asked you if you can show me where white people came together to oppose oppression against black people. Historically, where have white people come together as a group of 50, 100, whatever, and stood up against the oppression of black people? Ever? Where has that ever happened? In which country?
About conservatives and liberals.
No. Just give me the example. Don't explain.
No.
Either is that. Hold on, bruh.
Say I should give you an example without an explanation.
No. I want the link. Okay.
To cover something at a surface level.
All right.
And not just put in.
Okay. Don't go back to the conservatives and liberals. I've already explained that.
But it's a part of the conversation, right? Because here's the thing. Yes, the majority of liberals aren't in it for the right reasons.
Which ones are in it? Which ones are in it for the right reasons? Which ones are in it for the right reasons? Give names.
You can't me to list every single white person that exists on
No,
this
no, no.
planet.
Wait, you need to. Okay, hold on, hold
You
on.
know what I'm saying?
Okay,
Because
brother.
I can't speak to the fact that all black people care about the continuation of the black movement.
Okay.
Because that is simply not true.
Listen, when you say something, I will require you to qualify it. Else, I'll keep interrupting you. You can't say something and not qualify it. If you're gonna say, hold on, you need to qualify. Look, when I speak, hold on. When I speak, hold on. If you're gonna say something here, you need to qualify it. Hence, when I speak, I qualify, I give a historical context and examples. You can't say a majority of white liberals are not in it for the right reasons without saying, for example, there are some who are, and you give an example of something. You must always give examples and context, because if you just say something out there, it's just an ideology that you're making up. Because nothing. Because
Let me put it like this. In my own life,
hold on,
let me use my own life as examples, right? Because if you're going to speak about major points in history, you cannot disregard the nuances of everything that happens in and around those major points in history, right? And everyone seeks to serve their own purpose, right? The liberation of black people had a lot of interest from a lot of different sides. And we could say the Russians could have completely ignored the ANC, right? But they had their own thing to gain, and so they supported the ANC. In the same way that the current ANC could have abandoned the crown, right? And decided to serve black people, but they didn't. And them not doing it is to a detriment of black people. Does that mean that all black people are sellouts? No, it does not. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, that's you're not answering my question. No, you're not answering my question.
Yes, I'm not answering the question.
No, you're not. You are not. You said.
What is your question, sir?
My question.
You asked me to explain how I would explain it to my kids.
Yes, and you said to wait, and then
given context. But then you stopped me and got me into a new conversation.
No, I stopped you because you mentioned something which is untrue. That there are some white people that are because there is no way you can show me where white people they are good white people. Where are they?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they are not there.
Back in high school. No, listen. Back in high school. Back in high school. Back in high school. There was a family, my friend's family. A very white family. Irish background. Irish blood. Right. There was an incident at school. They had absolutely nothing to gain from this incident. It was the most racist incident ever. Right? I have never felt less of a person in my entire life than on that specific day. Right? We were playing a rugby match, and the racism that I felt on that one day, right, for essentially most of the first half, all the black kids were being berated with racial slurs. Right? This family had absolutely nothing to gain from defending us. There was no media, there was nothing. Right? They literally walked onto the middle of the pitch, they stopped the game. And these people, from the bottom of their hearts, they saw out their racist families. You know what I'm saying? Like, they literally defended black people when they had nothing to gain from that. So for you to say that there are no good white people, it is the same line of thinking that kept black people oppressed for so many years, because no one at the top seat of white people could say, you know what, there are good black people. You get what I'm saying? It is this it's a totalitarian mindset that does not foster growth. Because what I was saying in terms of us repeating the mistakes of the past is that we're going to get into power, and what we are going to do is not teach the world how to be good to one another, but we are essentially saying we are just like the previous masters, and we are going to oppress everyone else because now we are the top, because there are none of you that are good. You know, it is a very damning mindset that is very dangerous to actually putting us and actually saying to the rest of the world, this is where all of you are wrong because we are thinking just like them.
Okay,
as
all right.
soon as you say
Okay, I'll have to. Bongikosi. Okay, you've given your examples. You don't have to preach now on top of it. We've got.
I'm essentially just trying to correct
you motivate you have a motivational speech around it. You've given me the example I wanted. I wanted an example. That's enough.
Yeah.
The example I wanted. Now let me respond to the example. You don't need to preach around it and motivate it. You've given me the example. I asked for an example where white people have been good, right? And you gave me the example of the white family that stopped the match because of the racial whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, um, it looks like you didn't understand when I was explaining to you the concept of white liberals. I explained very well that white liberals are against the physical oppression, they are against extreme racism. But hold on. No, hold on.
Listen,
hold on. Wait. Hold on. Hold on. Let me finish.
Your
hold on.
point is yes, they don't want to see you do harm. They don't want to see you harm, but
they
don't want extreme good for you. Right? That is your point.
They don't want you to reach your potential as a black person because your potential. Hold on. Let me. Okay, wait.
Let me give you an example from the very same family
No, don't give me another example. No, don't give me another example. No, don't give me another example. Hold on. I have a question. I have one last question. Bongikosi. I'm the one interviewing you. Wait. Bongikosi. No. What do you want to answer?
Listen, as to your point of they do not want to see you doing good. When I got to matric, I was studying to do engineering. The father was a director at the university. The mother was a lawyer. The father, for absolutely no reason, right, offered to pay and give me a scholarship into the university to study whatever I wanted.
Wow.
To no benefit of his own.
Wow.
To no benefit of his own.
Wow.
Let
me tell you why that doesn't count for anything.
How does it not count?
Let me tell you why it doesn't count for anything, and then I'm gonna let after I answer that, I'm gonna let Lintle speak. Majority, if that's the case, a majority of white farmers in this country, in South Africa, they have taken care of the families of their farm workers. They've taken their children through school and through varsity. That is a common thing. And therefore, according to you, these white farmers are not racist. That is a blind spot. You still do not understand the concept of white supremacy. Okay, hold on. You come back. Let's let Lintle speak. No. Hold on. You come back. No, I'll come back to you. Lintle, you may speak. You've been, yeah.
I think I've gone in and up thrice, but I don't mean to put either of you on the spot.
You can put me on the spot, girl. I like being on the spot.
I think that
speak your heart.
Okay, one thing also, please learn to not interrupt people because it's hard to sort of, manage the space in such a way that you can hear people actually voice out, one, their opinion, secondly, for them to qualify why it is that they hold certain opinions. I think that the topic that you placed is a topic that could have had, well, that's had a lot of people who were quite interested to hear people's views. However, in your way of voicing out what you know and what you have understood for as long as you have, either through scholars or whoever else that you may have gotten your knowledge of African history or whatever else that supports the topic at hand, does not then qualify that or warrant it for you to then pose your questions in such a way that they insinuate that another person's idea of whatever they seem to think of is incorrect. So that's my thing about why the space is really not giving out what, or the best of what it could actually be, because all we're doing actually is listening to what you think, which is, I think, I think that's a poor choice of words. We're listening to how you want to trump over other people's ideas or thoughts about what they think about blended love or people who may be in love with or in interracial relationships, which actually has scared quite a lot of people, because I know friends that were on the space here that ran away from the space because it came across as being very, one, condescending, two, just like, this guy's going to be here to just bash me because I'm in an interracial relationship and he's not even willing or actually posing to hear my views on why it is that I made certain decisions to be in this relationship that I am in, or possibly even thinking of being in one. So I don't know, like if you're actually visual, you'll see that a lot of people have run away. And I'm thinking about 4 of my friends that are in interracial relationships. But not only that, I don't know any other people here, but I think that as a host, you should, afford somebody, or not even as a host, but just as a person, afford somebody the floor to have an opinion, because those opinions are formulated by circumstance, by environment. They caught by many things that influence the way that they think about things and the way that they view things. Now, when you come with information, whether right or not, it isn't the platform to then say, but do you know that? Give me an example of how do you know, because whether conclusive or not of the information that you know, you cannot for any surety speak with your chest and say those things and confirm them, because one, it's all on account. You weren't there. You've never seen them. You probably saw a book, read a book, whatever. It's all documented on account information. And I think I tweeted weeks ago. I'm reading a book by Nietzsche, that thus spoke Zarathustra, and it's speaking of the very thing that you and Winkos and everybody else is, myself included, that we speak on account most times, and it's not on things that we have experienced or have seen for sure. And even so, with the things that we would have learned and confirmed with our own eyes, we can't then go to a Bongikos and say, but I saw it. Bongikos wasn't there. He can only agree on your accounts. But by some level of being that we're all connected by the fact that we're all human, and we're connected by experiences that don't absolve us from feeling the same things. Like if we're human, we're likely to feel a particular way or similar way if we get hurt, if we get burned, or things that are just innate of us being human. Outside of that, information, especially in history, particularly related to Black history or whatever history of the world, all of it can come across as either conspiracy to Bongikosi or truth to Bongikosi or whatever it is. But the the space, and I think I'm being emphatic about this, is because it's such a nice topic to listen to what people are and where people are in our evolution of being in this world. And because now you've restricted it to be such a historically based thing, but no, now it's becoming a political thing, now it's bouncing off of that and becoming something else. We're not really hearing where people are, and I think that you really, really killed the mood for that, for me particularly. I don't know about how everybody else is feeling. But yeah, nice to hear a little bit of history, some things that I didn't know, which I'll go read up on as well.
Thanks, Lintley. All right. So, okay. So, pardon? Oh, Dintle. Oh, the suit. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I should have figured that one out. But yeah, if you were here in the beginning, you would have noticed that when the speaker started speaking, there was no back and forth. When we go see, yeah, he can speak, and he spoke uninterrupted. He even confirmed. That was the first part where people express what they think initially. And then that's basically how I run my spaces. There are conversations. It started and people gave their point of view, and then we moved on. We continued. Now the last part obviously has to deal with engaging the different thoughts. Hence, I even said that people with a different view should should step up, preferably. So obviously, I don't know why people would get uncomfortable with being asked questions, but yeah, uh, that's the reason why I like having conversations is to have those disagreements. And then if someone says something, then I would ask questions. A question is very neutral. It's basically, if I ask you a question, if you say something and I ask you a question, I am still giving you the benefit of the doubt. It's only if you can't answer the question, because I can't say you. I never ever. Anybody knows that. I never ever. Someone says something, I'm like, nah, you lying. I'd always ask the question. Even on Facebook today, someone talked about how uh, the British invaded Natal in 1795 and Shaka didn't fight them and whatnot. I knew the guy was talking nonsense, but I went and asked, where's the source of your information of the British ever invading Natal in 1879? Obviously, the guy disappeared. And also on the point of history, someone not being there, yeah, I understand that a lot of people's fear when it comes to dealing with history. I used to also be like, or be in the same position, and I stayed years not touching books. I wanted to touch history books, but I had questions. I was afraid of taking a side because I am not a person who's about being right. If anybody knows me, I am not about that, especially if you know my journey. I've always been, I've always, I mean, I don't know anyone that has transformed at the rate that I've transformed. I mean, from when I was a Christian, I moved from doctrine to doctrine. How did I get there? Because I was engaging, and someone here would prove me wrong, and I love being proven wrong, by the way. I hate people who don't prove me wrong, or someone that knows something, that knows I'm going in the wrong direction, and they keep quiet. Instead of saying, "Hey, you're going the wrong way," or at least whether I agree with you, at least you've let me know, and I'm gonna be looking and rechecking. So, but one thing I can assure you is history and scholarship is not about a book. You'll be surprised how many books I've read. It's not a lot. I only started buying my books in 2018. And the reason why I started buying the book is I had solved the question of um, how do I know that book A, which says we are facing east, and book B that says we are facing west. How do I know which one is right? So I wanted to buy to engage history books for years, but I could not. I never bought one book because of that. And so only 2018 I started collecting all the books I have. I built a whole shelf only from 2018, very recently. So what I stumbled into is, or basically what I eventually found that I've been looking for is the tools to verify information. You know, for example, if I read in the history book and they say, yeah, oh, by the way, I had a discussion with my mother about how African women prior to Arab and Europe colonialism were, they were in they could be they were not discriminated against because of their gender in the major matrilineal in the major kingdoms, which were more matrilineal. My mother's like, boy, I was here before you. These things were here. And so I said to her, look, if anything ever existed, we'll find a remnant. And I gave an example of the Balobedu people. If really African men never ever was despicable for black women to rule, we would never have what we have as a remnant of Balobedu people. They've never been ruled by men since the beginning of their existence as Balobedu people. If you want to talk about, human beings used to be hunters and gatherers, you have a remnant for everything that ever existed in history. History is not just about, actually, scholarship is not just about reading a book. Things are, if you have the skill, you can verify things. I didn't read anywhere in most of the things I tweet about. I have not read anyway. Some of the things, many, because my scholarship is a combination of my observations, analysis, experiences, and some of the scholarly works that I've come into contact with. So there is a skill you develop. For example, yes, I did read this Arab explorer who actually wrote about women in Mali being more important than men, and they were overly elevated, they were too free, and all that. I read about what the guy said. So I didn't just, it doesn't end there with me. With me, I, my mind works in such a way where I analyze things. For example, you can confirm it in the use of language. A lot of things, use of language, even though something is dead among the people on a larger scale, how they use the language can confirm certain things, because your language, yes, you might have lost your culture, but your language still carries what was ancient. So, for example, if you take the Bible and read it in a European language, doesn't matter if it's English or Afrikaans or whatever, Dutch, whatever, and you read "The Lord is my shepherd," or you read, yeah, in the European language, automatically you know that God is male. That in that context, the writer is referring to God as a man, because the first sentence, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down." If you read it now in Sesotho, in any African language, you will not know, because that that the language tells you that it gives you the soul, the thinking of the ancestors, how they thought. They never gender was never the first thing they saw when they saw a person. So you see it in the language. Uh, uh, if you say "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," He makes me to lie. There is no he or she in our languages. There's no her, there's no he. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because our ancestors did not have that level of gender consciousness. The person was a person first, the gender came much later. There's a lot of things. I did not read that anyway. It's something I just observed myself. Even I remember speaking to one elder, Zulu. He's very well in, yeah, like for me, that man is a library. And I was asking him about something else, and then I was like, hold on. I told him I wanted to, brag a little bit to him. And I said, I noticed something about in the Zulu language that the moon and a doctor have the same word. And then he went off and started explaining, and what he explained is something I had already seen. How did I see it? The first thing I noticed was that the word was the same, inyanga, inyanga, and from there I broke it down in my mind. So you can write whatever book or anything, but a book in itself is not how we derive scholarship. There, there's even an ancient book written by some Arab about Kila Kiswani in East Africa. It's a book from 1,000 years ago. Archaeologists actually proved that the report from there to be incorrect because archaeology proved it otherwise. So, so scholarship is not a matter of belief because you were not there. It's a matter of a. There are tools. You know, there are tools to determine whether to verify facts and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that in. Okay, Dintle. Yes, ma'am. Marangera, I'm the host. Why? But I was explaining, I was answering your question. And when I didn't, no, I didn't say it in a bad way. There's nothing wrong. Like, I also didn't know who. No, about because I wasn't saying it in a bad way. I was saying the man you can give him a pulpit. The man will preach. He will do a good job. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I also do, you know. So yeah, no, it's not a bad thing. If it's a bad thing, it means Lena, it's a bad thing. Yeah, talk to me. Yes. Why or
and notice as well that no one interrupts you.
okay, let Eric explain.
And literally I've even timed you. To say, okay, no, Eric, let me just interject just right there. Don't say that because when a person is speaking, especially in the space, it's hard to get back a train of thought. Whether you are telling a story and making an analogy, notice, that's what I'm saying, notice that all of the speakers here, including Bumiko Sion, allows you to read well and tell your story, and we have listened, and we're like, oh, okay, this is insightful, oh, okay, he did this. How am I talking? When I was home, no.
Okay, Dintle. So what I was explaining. Yeah. As I explained to you, in the beginning when we started, uh, I even used Bongikos as an example. I said I let it the opening statements and you basically sharing your belief or whatever and how you feel about the matter. Everybody no one was interrupted. Okay. He said now when
Don't
we
lie.
in the beginning. Ask him.
No,
Ask him.
like,
Ask him his first opening statements. Ask him if I interrupted him. Ask him. Hello, 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 hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Hello. If you can hear me, wave, please.